The day I discovered the truth about you, it didn't just change how I saw you, it changed how I saw myself. Because when you realize someone isn't just part of your story, they are the reason you started writing it in the first place. That's when love stops being a feeling and starts becoming a mission. The moment you truly discover something meaningful about the person you love, everything inside you shifts. It's like flipping a hidden switch in your mind that you didn't even know existed. Before that moment, you might have been moving through life on autopilot, working, surviving, chasing goals because you were told that's what success looks like. But then you see them for who they really are, not just as someone you care about, but as someone whose presence gives your ambition a heartbeat. And suddenly you're not chasing success for yourself anymore. You're chasing it because you now have a reason that feels bigger than your own reflection in the mirror. I remember a story about a young engineer who worked at a small startup. For years he was talented but average. He did what was required, no more. Then one day he discovered that the woman he loved had been quietly sacrificing her own dreams just to support him, working late nights, handling responsibilities, believing in his potential when even he didn't. That discovery didn't make him emotional, it made him relentless. He went back to his desk with a fire in his chest and said, "If someone believes in me this much, then failure is no longer an option." Within 2 years, he helped that startup grow into a global company. That wasn't just love. That was purpose being born from discovery. That's how it works. When you discover the true depth of someone's heart, it doesn't just inspire you, it redefines you. Because you realize that every late night you work, every risk you take, every obstacle you fight through is no longer just about proving something to the world. It's about honoring the belief that this person has placed in you. And that belief becomes the most powerful energy source on the planet. More powerful than fear, more powerful than doubt, even more powerful than your own limitations. Elon Musk once said that if something is important enough, you do it even when the odds are not in your favor. But what makes something important enough? It's not money, it's not status, it's not even passion, it's meaning. And meaning is born the moment you discover that someone you love is counting on you to rise higher than you ever thought you could. The discovery creates a sense of responsibility so intense that it transforms you into someone the world cannot ignore. Think about the astronauts who risk their lives going into space. Do you think they do it just for the thrill? No, they do it because they know. Their mission represents hope, innovation, and progress for humanity. And that's exactly what happens in your own life when you discover that the person you love represents something sacred, something worth fighting for. Your goals stop being selfish ambitions and start becoming a mission you are willing to bleed for. You begin to understand that success is not about what you gain, it's about what you build together. I've seen people who were lost, directionless, even broken until they discovered that someone believed in them. A student who was failing in school suddenly became the top of his class after realizing his mother was working double shifts just to pay for his education. A young athlete who wanted to quit the game became a world champion after discovering his father had sold his own possessions to buy him equipment. Those discoveries didn't just motivate them, they gave them purpose. And purpose is what separates ordinary effort from legendary achievement. That's the difference between living and leading. When you discover that someone's future is tied to your success, you stop settling for average, you stop making excuses, you start operating at a level that feels almost superhuman because now you're not just building your own life, you're building a shared destiny. And that changes everything. You start waking up earlier, working harder, thinking bigger because your mind understands something that your heart already knows. You're no longer doing this alone, you're doing it for someone who saw your potential before you even had the courage to look at it yourself. And that kind of discovery doesn't just create purpose, it creates momentum. The most powerful thing about discovery is that it doesn't give you comfort, it gives you direction, it gives you a reason to keep going when your body is tired, when your mind wants to quit, when the world tells you it's impossible. Because you now understand that quitting doesn't just affect you, it affects the person who believes in you. And that realization gives you a level of drive that no motivational quote can ever replace. That's what real love does. It turns effort into obsession, it turns struggle into sacrifice, it turns dreams into destiny. And the moment you discover that about Omion, your purpose becomes unstoppable. Love, when it is real, does not weaken you, it ignites you. It becomes the silent engine behind every great leap you take in life. Most people think love is soft, emotional, and distracting. But the truth is, the right kind of love's the most full form of fuel you will ever have. It doesn't pull you away from your goals. It pushes you directly toward them with a force so intense that it feels almost supernatural. I've seen it happen. A young man once told me he was ready to give up on his startup. He had tried for 3 years, burned through savings, lost friends, and hit every wall you could imagine. He said, maybe I'm just not built for greatness. But one evening, his wife looked at him and said something simple. I didn't marry you for comfort. I married you because you were brave. That one sentence didn't comfort him. It transformed him. He went back to work like a man who had been given a second life. That company is now worth millions. Not because of luck, because love became the fuel that turned doubt into determination. That is what powerful love does. It gives you the kind of energy that doesn't just keep you moving. It makes you impossible to stop. Look at history. Every visionary, every builder, every leader who changed the world had something deeply personal driving them. It wasn't just ambition. It was someone they loved, someone they wanted to make proud, someone they wanted to protect, someone they wanted to build a future for. That is the difference between motivation and purpose-driven power. When Elon Musk was asked why he keeps pushing beyond limits, he didn't talk about comfort or success. He talked about the future, about making life better for humanity. That's not just in Vuitton, that's love at a global scale. And if love can drive a man to Mars, imagine what it can do for your own life. Because love is not a distraction, it is direction. When you truly love someone, you don't want to stay average. You don't want to stay small. You want to rise so high that their belief in you feels justified. You want to become a version of yourself that you didn't even know existed. That's when love stops being a feeling and starts becoming a force. Think about an athlete training alone in the dark at 4 a.m. while the world sleeps. Do you think he wakes up for applause? No. He wakes up because he remembers the look in his mother's eyes when she told him, "You are my hope." That memory gives him the strength to keep running when his legs are burning and his lungs are screaming. That's not physical power, it's emotional fuel converting into unstoppable action. Or think about a soldier standing on the front lines. He doesn't fight because he loves war. He fights because he loves the people waiting for him at home. That love gives him courage that fear cannot defeat. It's not about bravery. It's about what he is fighting for. That's what happens to you when love becomes your fuel. You stop working for results. You start working for legacy. Because when someone truly believes in you, you feel a responsibility to become more, to grow, to achieve, to rise beyond your own comfort and limits. You don't want to let that belief go to waste. And that our responsibility pushes you to operate at levels that ordinary people will never understand. That's why love doesn't weaken the strong. It creates as the strong. You see it in entrepreneurs who build companies from nothing because they want their families to have a better life. You see it in scientists who spend decades in labs trying to cure diseases because they lost someone they love. You see it in leaders who sacrifice comfort and safety because they believe their people deserve something greater. That's the real power of love. It takes pain, sacrifice, and pressure and turns it into progress. And the moment you allow love to become your driving force, something extraordinary happens. You stop being lazy with your dreams. You stop making excuses. You stop quitting halfway because now you are not working just for yourself. You are working for something that feels deeply human and incredibly powerful at the same time. That kind of fuel never runs out. Money can disappear, motivation can fade, passion can weaken. But love, real love, only grows stronger when challenged. It becomes sharper when tested. It becomes more powerful the more life tries to break it. That's why the most successful people on earth are not the most talented, they are the most driven. And the ones who are the most driven almost always have love at the center of their mission. Because when you love someone, you don't settle for survival. You fight for greatness. You push beyond exhaustion. You learn faster. You build stronger. You take risks you would never take alone. Not because you are fearless, but because you are fueled. And that's the truth. Love is not the opposite of ambition, it is the source of it. The right love will not slow your journey. It will turn you into a machine of progress and resilience. It will make you stronger in the moments when you feel weakest. It will remind you that success is not about reaching the top alone. It's about bringing someone you love with you. That is why love is the greatest fuel for greatness. The moment you learn the truth about someone you love, the real truth, the kind that strips away assumptions, and reveals their heart, their sacrifices, their loyalty. Something powerful happens inside you. Your commitment stops being emotional and starts becoming absolute. Because truth has a way of turning affection and devotion. It turns "I care about you" into "I will stand by you no matter what it costs." Most people think commitment is built through promises. It isn't. Promises are easy. Anyone can say, "I'll never leave you" when things are good. But truth is what makes you stay when everything is hard. Truth is what gives your loyalty weight and meaning. When you understand someone's real value, when you see their strength, their patience, their belief in you, your mind locks in and you realize that walking away is no longer an option. There's a story of a young founder who almost quit his company after years of failure. Investors had pulled out. His friends told him he was wasting his life. But then he discovered that his younger sister had been secretly sending him part of her salary every month to help keep his dream alive. She never told him because she didn't want him to feel pressure. She just wanted him to have a chance. That truth didn't make him emotional. It made him committed. He said, "If she believes in me this much, then I don't have the right to give up." That company later became one of the fastest growing startups in the region. That wasn't just business success, that was commitment forged through truth. That's how it works. The moment you truly understand what someone means to your journey, your loyalty becomes unshakable because you realize you're not just carrying your own ambition anymore, you're carrying the hopes, the trust, and the sacrifices of someone who sees your potential even when you struggle to see it yourself. And once that realization hits you, your mindset changes forever. You stop chasing temporary wins. You start building something that lasts. You start thinking in terms of legacy, not comfort, because truth creates a level of emotional responsibility that transforms how you move through life. It turns ordinary effort into extraordinary dedication. Think about the leaders who refuse to abandon their people in times of crisis. They don't do that because it's easy. They do it because they know the truth about the people they serve. They know their struggles, their loyalty, their belief, and that truth strengthens their commitment to fight for something greater than themselves. It's the same in love. The truth about someone's character is what makes your loyalty powerful. When you discover their resilience, their honesty, their quiet sacrifices, it makes you want to stand taller, to become better, to build a future worthy of the bond you share. Because now it's not just about feelings, it's about respect. And respect is what makes commitment unbreakable. I once met a man who had lost everything in business. He was bankrupt, exhausted, and on the edge of giving up. But then he learned that his wife had been telling their children, "Your father is not failing. He is learning how to win." That truth didn't comfort him, it strengthened him. He rebuilt his company from the ground up, step by step. 10 years later, he stood on stage as a billionaire. And when he was asked what changed his life, he didn't say strategy. He said, "The day I realized my family believed in me, I decided I would never fail them." That's what truth does. It gives commitment its power. Because when you truly understand someone's value, your mind becomes disciplined. You stop giving up halfway. You stop settling for less. You start pushing through pain, pressure, and uncertainty. Because now your loyalty is not optional. It's instinctive. That's the difference between shallow love and powerful love. Shallow love wants comfort. Powerful love wants growth. Shallow love runs when things get difficult. Powerful love stays, builds, and dresses. And this is exactly what happens when truth strengthens your commitment. Your loyalty stops depending on circumstances and starts depending on character. You don't stay because life is easy. You stay because your values demand it. This is the same principle that drives visionaries to stay committed to their mission even when the world tells them it's impossible. They don't keep going because they are naive. They keep going because they understand the truth about what they are building and who they are building it for. Truth makes your why stronger than your how. When you discover that the person you love represents strength, sacrifice, and belief, it becomes impossible for you to live an average life. Because now your success is not just about proving yourself, it's about proving that their trust in you was deserved. That's when your loyalty becomes a source of power. You start showing up differently, speaking differently, leading differently because you now understand that the future you create is not yours alone. It belongs to the people who stood beside you when you had nothing but potential and doubt. That's why the truth about someone's value doesn't make you weak, it makes you unbreakable. It builds a level of commitment that fear cannot shake and failure cannot destroy. Because once truth has strengthened your loyalty, there is no going back. There is only one direction. Forward, and forward is exactly where commitment takes you. When it is rooted in truth, when two people fall in love, it can feel beautiful, exciting, even magical. But when two people share a vision, that's when love becomes legendary. That's when it stops being about emotions and starts being about impact. Because shared vision doesn't just build relationships, it builds legacies. You see, love by itself can inspire you, but a shared mission gives that inspiration direction. It transforms a bond into a blueprint for the future. It makes you realize that you're not just here to live a comfortable life together, you're here to create something that will outlive both of you. I heard about a couple who met in college with nothing but dreams and ambition. They didn't talk about vacations or status, they talked about what kind of world they wanted to leave behind. He wanted to build technology that would make life easier for millions. She wanted to empower people through education. And instead of chasing their goals separately, they built them together. They started a small platform that combined both of their passions, and over time it turned into a global company that changed the lives of thousands. That wasn't luck. That was love elevated by a shared vision. That's what happens when two minds align with one future in mind. You stop thinking like individuals, you start moving like at AM. You stop asking, what do I want? And start asking, what can we build? Look at some of the greatest partnerships in history. Not just romantic ones, but visionary ones. Think about the founders who changed industries because they trusted and empowered each other. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak didn't just create Apple. They created a revolution in personal computing. They saw something bigger than themselves and worked toward it together. That's the same energy that transforms love into a force that shapes the world. Because a shared vision makes you stronger than your fears. When life gets difficult, and it always does, you don't fall apart. You fall forward. Because now you have something that binds you beyond emotion. A purpose, a future, a direction that keeps you moving even when the road gets dark. I've seen couples who faced financial collapse, health crisis, and unimaginable pressure. But they didn't give up because they had a vision they refused to abandon. They knew they were building something greater than comfort, something greater than circumstances. And that belief gave them the strength to keep rising. That's the real meaning of partnership. Not just standing beside each other, but building beside each other. Because when two people share a dream, every obstacle becomes smaller. Every sacrifice becomes meaningful. Every step becomes progress. And you begin to understand that the greatest gift you can give someone you love is not comfort. It's a future you build together. That's exactly what drives leaders, innovators, and visionaries at the highest levels. They don't just work for themselves, they work for a shared outcome. And that alignment is what creates empires. Think about Elon Musk and the people who joined him in building SpaceX. They weren't just employees, they were believers. They shared the same mission to make life multiplanetary. And that's why they worked through failure, risk, and near collapse. Because when vision is shared, commitment becomes unbreakable. Be where he same applies to love. If you and the person you love share a powerful vision, you are no longer just partners. You are co-creators of a destiny. You become stronger, sharper, and more resilient because you are not building alone. You are pushing each other toward greatness. That's what makes love extraordinary. Barte is not about how deeply you feel. It's about how far you are willing to go together. Because shared vision turns love into momentum. Oh, start dreaming bigger, acting bolder, sacrificing smarter. Because now your ambitions are not separate paths. They are the same road leading toward a future that only the two of you can create. ND. Once you experience that kind of alignment, you realize that love is not about fee.